Well, welcome everybody. We are just delighted that you're here for this session on membership. My name is Patricia McLeese. I'm the district governor nominee for District 5960. So it is my pleasure to welcome you, and especially my pleasure to introduce our speaker, which is Tom Gump, past district governor 5950 and member of the Rotary Club of Edina. And I love listening to Tom, and my introduction is just 3 sentences this time, Tom, but they're from my heart. Tom is a Rotarian in action, committed to service, and has a true gift for developing membership options. And after Tom's talk, we will have an opportunity for questions and answers. So you can put your questions in the chat or raise your hand when it's time to be sure to keep those questions in mind. And Tom, now please share your wonderful knowledge about membership.
Well, thank you, Patricia. It's so wonderful that it's the best introduction ever because it came from the heart. So thank you. So it's pretty exciting to see all you PEs and 2 DGEs getting ready to take the reins in less than 60 days. So it's been quite a journey, and you've done such a good job, and now it ends tonight, or at least the formal part. Of course, you're always learning along the way. So, and I really appreciate that you are here for this particular topic. And it's interesting because if you think about starting new clubs, it's not typically what a president-elect thinks about, but as Kay Biga for 5580 and Lloyd and Steve as DGEs, they've been charged by the incoming RI president-elect Jennifer Jones to start new clubs. So if you have any ideas, you could forward it to them, and they'll very much appreciate it. So there's 3 ways to grow Rotary. We could bring in members to our club, which I know you're all going to work on that as being president-elects. And we could retain the members, make them feel comfortable, make sure that they feel welcome enough to bring their friends and their families in, and then starting new clubs. So what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to focus on the starting new clubs. Why do we do that? Well, there's a few things that new clubs do in a way that's better than the other 2 ways for growing Rotary. First of all, it grows Rotary more quickly. It retains new members longer. It attracts younger and more diverse members to Rotary. It makes Rotary more visible out in the community, and it gives us an opportunity to partner with other groups to help grow Rotary. So that's me saying it, but let me prove it to you. We can grow Rotary more quickly because if you think about it, when you start a club, you have to add 20 people at one time. So it would take a long time to actually admit 20 people. We just formed a new club that chartered, had its official charter ceremony over the weekend, our new Pride Club, and we added 34 members, and 32 were new to Rotary. And we did it like that. I mean, we just within a few months formed the club. It would probably take us a long time to add 34 members. This club that's pictured here, we added close to 50 members when we started the Rotary Club of Network for Empowering Women. Now it retains members longer, especially if these new clubs are cause-based, where the club is focused around a particular cause. Their speakers around that cause, their service projects around that cause. This is a picture of the first ever Rotary Club to serve veterans in the world, and they're with the Afghan community, bringing them clothes. People drive over 2.5 hours to come to these meetings, and most of our Rotary clubs are traditional clubs, which I love. They're the backbone of Rotary. I am in one, would never leave it. But most of our traditional Rotary clubs, people either work near the Rotary Club or they live near the Rotary Club. But the new clubs that are forming, they're a little bit different. Also, more diversity. Now, like I said, I love my club. This Saturday, we're having trash pickup. We make sandwiches for the hungry. We rake leaves for those who can't rake leaves. But I tell you what, I'm recruiting younger people, especially millennials. I was up in St. Cloud today at a Rotary Club of St. Cloud at a topic of how to get millennials. And they didn't say, go out and tell them you can pick up trash. And it's true. And why is it true? Because younger people, they want to have great impact, but they want to have it in one area. Let's say save the environment. So this club right here, the Rotaract Kaleidoscope Club, this is a club that Lloyd started, who's on DGE Lloyd from 5950. And we partnered up with MICC, which is another organization that serves people with autism and their families. So that's another way that you can start a new club. And it's a great way to reach out to people who don't know about Rotary. We actually proved this last year. We went from 30% females to over 32% females. And at the end of the year, we were looking back, how did we do that? And it turns out that the 80 individual female members that we added, the majority of them came from 3 clubs. Our Eco Club had over 50% females. Our Rotary Club to End Human Trafficking had over 60% females. And our Rotary Club for Network for Empowering Women had almost 70% females. So what we have been trying to do for years, we were able to do because we started new clubs. And this is true with race and other factors, but Rotary doesn't really measure race. But you can see when you go on the screen for an E-Club that's been started in the last 18 months to a couple of years, they're just more diverse than our traditional clubs. Also, these clubs make Rotary more visible in the community. You think about it, I mean, we have a lot of Rotary clubs. We have 1.4 million Rotarians, if you count our Rotaractors, around the world. But if we had a club that worked for everyone, fit everyone's schedules, everyone's needs, everyone's interests, we would have tens of millions of Rotarians. So these new clubs can reach these potential people of action where they are. And this is an example of it. This is the first ever Rotary Club that was focused on ending human trafficking. We started this over 2 years ago, and now there's about 9 of them around the world. But after we started this club, about 20 minutes after we chartered a particular member from Turkey, I received an email from the then sitting president of Rotary International, Mark Maloney, and he confided in me that that was his sister we just inducted, Erin Maloney. And he also told me that he had been trying to get her into Rotary for 40 years, 40 years. It's just we didn't have a club that met her interests. You know, she didn't want to go during the day because she was a school teacher in Turkey, teaching US history, and she wanted to focus on this one area. Also, these clubs give us an opportunity to partner with other groups, both inside of Rotary and outside of Rotary. We started this club, the Rotaract E-Club for the Environment, in just a few months, and it was relatively easy. What we did is we approached the SRAG, which is the Environmental and Sustainability Rotary Action Group. So action groups, they give us tips. They're experts on how to fund projects and how to accomplish and plan projects. But we asked them, did they have any younger members who actually want to get their hands dirty and actually do the projects, go out and get the grants? Because action groups don't get grants. So we got a list of 120 young people who were SRAG members, and we called them, and we ended up starting a club with about 30 members from 20 different countries around the world. They don't look like my club. They don't meet in person. They meet online over a Zoom meeting, and they don't communicate like we do in my club. They don't send emails. They basically communicate through WhatsApp. But just another example of what these new clubs do. Now, you can start 3 types of Rotary clubs. You can start a Rotary Club, which takes 20 members. You can start a Rotaract Club, which is a recommended 12 members, or you can start a satellite club. Now, a satellite club is kind of a misnomer because it's not really a club. It's really an extension of an existing club. So if you want to grow your club that you'll be president of come July 1, and you want to focus on that, satellite's a good way to go. You only need 8 people. And it just adds some flexibility, which might keep some members that would otherwise leave and maybe attract some new members. And there's also different club models. And you could take some of these ideas and incorporate it into your current club. You don't necessarily have to start a new club. Like the cause-based club, we had a club in Texas that was a Toastmasters club, and it was lost all its members. So it was going to turn in its charter. And we put some veterans in there, and it became a veterans club, and now they're just thriving. So we're going to talk a little bit about passport clubs. And I'm going to ask Lloyd to talk about passport clubs because he, DGE Lloyd, has started a passport club in our district that I know of.
Thank you very much, Tom. You know, when we think about starting new clubs, probably the easiest club to start is a passport club. Usually what happens is that when you have the opportunity to man the data that you have in your organization, you will find that you will find that there are some members that left because of either time, travel, or a variety of things. And you really, if you have the opportunity to tell them about this new Rotary option, which is one that gives them the flexibility to meet at different times, go to different clubs, and that's really designed for someone that has a one of those schedules that just doesn't fit the Tuesday or Thursday 7 a.m. or 12 noon meeting time. And they still want to do service and they still want to follow the core values of Rotary. They seem to really jump at it. So when you think about starting a new club, probably the easiest club to start initially would be a passport club. Tom, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about it.
And thank you, Lloyd. And Lloyd is right. A lot of times if district hasn't started a club for a while, what they do is they go through and they mine their database. They could go through Club Runner or DACTV, whatever their third-party provider for information is, and they could call people and say, why did you leave Rotary? Because so many of them left because they couldn't meet during the day. Or maybe at one time, their children were at home and they didn't have time to meet, but their children go off to college and then they have time. Corporate clubs are popping up around the world. Bentley Motors in England is starting one. In Yardley, Pennsylvania, they're starting Toll Brothers, who's a regional, I guess it's a national home builder. And this is where you actually go to a corporation and they have a group of people who want to start a Rotary club. Most corporate clubs that meet during lunch, because let's face it, no one wants to go to work early or stay late if they don't have to. And some businesses like banks don't like employees to be there before or after hours. But these are great clubs to start. A lot of times people are working in one area of a corporation. They don't know other people in the corporation. And this will allow people from HR to spend time with people in accounting and legal and all those deals. And it's the ones that we have that have formed, they usually have great service projects. And when they do, they have lots of people from the corporation club. So you have a built-in group of people that'll help you with service projects. Now, cause-based clubs are my all-time favorite kind of club. Why? Because people have a passion, and when they have a passion, they're more motivated than you've ever seen them before. And, you know, a cause-based club is basically a club that focuses on one cause, whether it be the environment or ending human trafficking, veterans. And they have all their speakers and they have all their projects based around that cause. This is probably definitely is the type of club that's growing, you know, most around the world. So we could talk about that question and answer if you have more questions. Alumni-based clubs, these are people who have had life-changing experiences because of a Rotary program, such as youth exchange, or maybe some kind of vocational travel or some kind of project. Again, it's low-hanging fruit because you can find out people who have friends who are Rotex or something else that started. You know, I had a friend in my club, Paula, who when I was president, she was our international service chair, and she had moved to Florida, and she was passionate about and still is about international service. When she joined her new Rotary club in Florida, they only did local service. So Paula quit Rotary. So I told her she should start a club. And she said, well, how do I find the members? I said, talk to your friends. And she did. She brought in all her friends that she traveled with on projects. I brought in some of the family members who were host families for youth exchange. And we have a thriving club called Global Travelers. And they're planning a trip to Vietnam in a few weeks to do a project there. Interest-based clubs are very similar to cause-based clubs, but instead of being around a cause, what they do is they actually are based around an interest. I have a friend in Australia who just started one for koala. So I see Mike DeLuca is on the line. Mike, do you want to tell us about Global Travelers? Because I just told the group about that. What makes your club special?
Well, thanks, Tom. I think what makes Global Travelers different or unique and maybe special, using your words, is when you get a group of people together that share one common passion. And we're joined by that, not just the fact that we happen to live in an area together or that we're in the same geographical area, but that we share an affinity to a particular topic. In our case, it's international travel, meeting people, and serving. So I think that's the main difference.
Wonderful. Thank you. So an interest-based cause, it could be anything from exercise, maybe there's 5 or 6 people in your club that would rather go out bicycling instead of eating a lunch or a breakfast. Or maybe it's a cooking club, or maybe it's a group that shares an interest in horticulture or pollinators for bees. So there's all kinds of things, even happy hours after work. International clubs are very popular in big cities. In Chicago, we have 2 of these. A lot of times they focus around a particular background. Like in Chicago, they have one for Lithuanians. They have 2 Spanish-speaking clubs. This helps people who have a similar interest in a particular culture to get together. Of course, all these clubs, they still have that glue of the service that they do together. So 5 keys to success that all of these clubs that are successful have. They have a passionate champion. Like DGE Kay Biga, she started a club, one of the first environmental clubs in the entire country, people who are passionate about that issue. They all have people who are friends or want that camaraderie. It doesn't matter what type of service they're doing, they want to do it with people who they consider their friends and have similar interests with. They all want to serve. Nobody wants to be part of a club that just does nothing. And even an e-club, they do have service projects. They just do it in different parts of the world, and they just choose a day or a week to do them in similar type clubs. These clubs all started with friends. That's how most of these clubs start. And they're nurtured by a district or a club. There's a new module in the Learning Center that talks about nurturing a new club is the title of it. But it says that new clubs that are nurtured by existing clubs are 42% more likely to thrive. So really, any place that you serve and anyone who needs service, you can get together and do it. And it's important to remember that these clubs aren't about, with the Veterans Club, it's not about being a veteran, it's about serving veterans. So we're very inclusive when it comes to our members. And not every member of a Veterans Club is a veteran. Our Veterans Club here, their administrator is not a veteran, but he has a son-in-law that's active military. We have a sheriff here who's very respectful of veterans, wants to serve veterans, but he's not a veteran himself. In Australia, they're starting 2 clubs for homelessness. So again, anywhere where you can see service can be done, you could form a club around it. And you think about it, if you want to start a nonprofit, you would have to file paperwork with your Secretary of State. You'd have to file with the IRS a 501c3 application. You'd have to raise the money. You'd have to find the projects. When you have Rotary, you have so much available to you. You can apply for a district grant. You can apply for a global grant. We have a great reputation from 117 years of service. We have a 5-star Charity Navigator rating for our foundation. All those things. You can start your own nonprofit as a Rotary Club, and it's so much more simple. So our president-elect, Jennifer Jones, wants us to imagine what Rotary can be. What I would like you to imagine is how we can grow Rotary by forming new clubs. Just think about if you started in your district a club that had one of the 7 areas of focus, let's say WASH project, or let's say, you pick the area of focus. What if we started 7 clubs like that within your district? That would have a lot more people, in your DGEs on the line would be very happy for starting those new clubs. Or you could pick people who know a lot about Rotary because they were passionate about it, because they participated in a program like the Youth Exchange and form an alumni club. But there's a lot of people out there that just can't find a Rotary Club that fits them because of the time or their schedule, or maybe it doesn't address their interests, but we can do that. So now I'd like to go to the favorite part of any presentation for me, and that's answering your questions. So if you have any questions, and it doesn't have to be about just forming new clubs, it'd be anything, hopefully membership, because that's why you're all here. But any question you have, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Tom. And we do have a question from
Wonderful.
Haley. She is the current president and PE of her new chartered club, but they're struggling with engagement and attracting to new members. So can you give her some advice to increase participation and attract new members?
Well, Haley, you're very smart to know that it's engagement. That's a huge issue. How do you engage people? And you know what? The best thing to do is maybe send out a survey and ask them what they're interested in getting out of the club. Because the reality is, Haley, Rotary is a business and we're delivering a product. That product we're delivering is the club experience. So if we find out what they want in that club experience, I mean, you look at what Mike does. Mike and his club, they're interested in doing service and international service. That appeals to what they want to do. What is the purpose of International Innovators? What was the stated purpose for your current members?
Well, it was the idea, I can't say was my own, but I hopped on shortly after the idea came, or not shortly after, because it started pre-COVID and things got put on hold when that came about. But we do have we are international based, but we are also a lot of alumni. So myself personally, I chartered a Rotaract club when I was in college and grew up in a Rotary family. So I joined this with the hopes of continuing on in my Rotary journey. And I know that a lot of our members are very similar, whether they are Interact, Rotaract, Rilarians, or we've had actually a lot of past exchange students come in, and that's how we have had a lot of our international members. So that was the idea behind it, to hopefully reach out to some of the alumni and get some of the younger generation involved.
Well, that's a great idea. Well, there is actually a fellowship called the Fellowship of E-Clubs, and it's run by a man in England named Martin LeBrock. And they do all kinds of innovative things with their innovative e-club. And they run different programs. They actually have an interactive program where you could design cards for like different holidays and birthdays and things like that. And what they do for service is they let a person pick a service project and they all work on that type of service project. So we'll see if we can get you hooked up with him, because they have some really good innovative ideas, especially for e-clubs. So we'll see if we can get you his contact information.
That would
Tom,
be fantastic. Thank you.
and Tom, did you say it was the Fellowship of E-Club? So you can
Yes.
Google that and it would.
You can Google that, and Martin LeBrock they have a meeting that's coming up Wednesday where they're going to share ideas. Haley, can you put your email in the chat box?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Are there any other questions? Well, I have one. What is the Rotex? You were mentioning that, and I've never heard of that.
So Rotex is a group of individuals who used to be youth exchange students, and now they're a little bit older, and they're in college or older, and they actually serve as a liaison between youth exchange students the year that they're inbound and their host families. And you can use them, to help a club. There's a club that started in 5960, and now it's basically out of Denver, but it started around the St. Paul area. There was a lady named Chris-Ann Margolis, and it was losing members and losing members and losing members, and they were thinking about turning in their charter. What they did is they brought in a group of Rotex. And what the Rotex did is they added a lot of energy and a lot of excitement. They took their mandatory meetings to only 2 a month instead of 4 a month. And what they did is they recorded their shows on video so you can watch them at another time. So she's a good resource too. But anytime you could bring in, how many of us have ever been at a Rotary meeting where we had someone, a young student who went out for an exchange and they just got back, and she and he were telling about their year abroad with all the pictures and stuff. There's so much energy. And that's, going to back what Haley was saying with engagement. If you bring those people with energy in, it's infectious.
That's good. Yeah, Kathy, because I have another question too. Okay, good.
I have another question. So in our area, there was a young professional group that disbanded during COVID. And I believe that there's some of those individuals who may be interested in still doing something service or as a group. And so our club has toyed with, we haven't done anything about it yet, but have thought about maybe starting a community-based Rotaract club in our community because they are younger. What would be some of those first steps that you would recommend for us to take if we were to actually move forward and try to grab those individuals and do that?
Well, first of all, I think that is an excellent idea. Second of all, I love District 6000 because of our zone pairs. They are growing faster than any other district. And it's interesting because I get more requests to speak to that district, and they ask other people to speak as well. And they have Dave and Steve, and they're just focusing on it. And you as presidents, if you focus on membership in your clubs, you're going to grow. You DGEs, if you focus on membership, it's going to happen. I love the community-based Rotaract, and I'll tell you why. Because when I've seen university clubs start and I've seen community-based, the community-based seem to last longer. And it's funny because it's true with universities too. When you start a university club, they might start, but most of those people, they graduate from the university, they leave. But when you start at a technical college or a VOTech school or something like that, they seem to stay in the community because they graduate and they do the car repair and do the other things in the community that they're in. So I think the best thing to do is to get a champion at the university, at the school, who's an advisor. You know, in the paper the other day, our local paper, they have the Hennepin County Technical School has lost their president in a scandal, and they appointed a new lady to take his spot. And so I'm going to call her up and I'm just going to say, I need your support, because we did that south of the cities here. When you get that support from maybe the president, it just seems to get a lot of buy-in. And if you get that buy-in as a group, it helps. So I would go to the president or the president's office and see if you can get maybe a few faculty involved.
Yeah, see, I think ours would be more community-based. We really don't have, I mean, we have a branch of a community college in our community, not even, you know, the main campus. So I think ours would be more trying to grab those young professionals from a previous organization that were not connected and try to get them, like I said, do a community base that's not university affiliated or college affiliated.
Is there an alumni group that's already formed of alumni from the school?
Well, the Iowa Lakes School is like I said, we're not even the main campus in our area. That's the main campus is, you know, in another community. We're just one little building that has maybe 3 classes a day. So it's not even like people congregate there regularly. So that's where I said, I think we'd have to be a complete community-based Rotaract and not be connected with a college or a university at all.
I think the best thing to do is just to grab a few of them and just talk to them and find out what they want. Because it's interesting, because when we have clubs that are established, we do these surveys, and people are as happy when we do a survey if we actually do the things, because they feel like they're being listened to, they feel comfortable. So then they bring their friends in. But it's hard to start with just one person. So I'd get them together and just ask them where they want to meet and how they want to meet, what kind of service projects they want to meet and do, and what kind of socials they want to have. And they'll feel like it's their club, they'll have ownership, and they'll help it grow.
And Haley, you want to share your comment? Maybe elaborate on it?
Yeah, of course. One of the things our membership team has taken on specifically, except I'm going in to speak to the club that I chartered, because as I tell everyone, that's my baby still. We are going in and we are kind of targeting all of the Rotaract clubs in our district and some with or outside of our district that have connections to some of our other members. And we are all going in and speaking about our Rotary Club, especially because we are an e-club. It is pretty easy to say, hey, you can go wherever you want to go and still be part of our club. So we are trying to especially target some of those graduating students to continue on with their Rotary journey, and also encouraging those who would like to become more involved that there is dual membership. You can be part of Rotaract and be a part of our club if that's something that you're interested in. And I'm actually going in to speak to the Rotaract Club of Mansfield University this upcoming Thursday. So hopefully that'll lead to some new members.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay.
So Kate, tell us how you found your members when you started your Eco Club.
Oh, well, the other 3 people that were former Rotarians were, we were all from Club 25, the 25th Rotary Club of all time, but very, you know, old men and their grandpas. And so 4 of us had left. And so I called those other 3 people and said, are you interested? Then we just all went out and found some people. I was a university professor at the time, so I lined up a few of my students or former students. And so we had 26 people when we chartered our club, but it got going very fast. Our first meeting was in July. Like organizational meeting. We had our first official meeting in September, and we got chartered shortly thereafter. So it was kind of like what you've been doing, some very fast moving, action on starting the new clubs.
Well, thank you.
Very
Thank you
nice.
for the question.
Yeah, I have a question of, and then,
John.
well, I'll let you go first, John, but then I'll follow up with my question. So John, what's your question?
Well, I'm really interested in starting a satellite club. But as I've thought about our community, trying to find a place for them to meet is an issue. There are not a lot of places around that have meeting rooms where they can meet apart from all the other patrons. And I've thought about, we've got a couple breweries that might be good possibilities, but again, they don't have any meeting space. How do we go about dealing with that?
Well,
John,
John,
Tom, can I add something?
absolutely.
John, why are you saying that they have to meet? So you're
At a
using an
place.
old axiom that says, I have to have them in a room eating breakfast or eating lunch or eating dinner. Make it a virtual club that you satellite.
Okay,
They don't have to meet. You might reach an entire new audience of people you never thought about.
You
okay.
know,
Think about.
that's a real good idea, Mike. The other idea might be, and you could do a hybrid of both, is I was talking to a club in New York the other day, and they go to each other's houses and they do a potluck where somebody brings pizza or wings or maybe something healthy once in a while. That's a possibility too. But if you're getting together and meeting with them, you'll come up with ideas, either going virtual, like Mike said, or find a place. I think the thing is to get it started and get people meeting, get people talking.
Yeah, great ideas. And then I have a question about the Passport Club, where there's some members that are some potential members that they are so busy that that it's hard for them to even connect, but they want to be part of the service. So I'd like more information about the Passport Club, because you're saying that they can go to a variety of club meetings, but how do they gel as a team to do the service if they're always going to different meetings? How does that operate?
So different clubs are different. And, one thing I would do if I were you, Patricia, is and I can get you the website for our Passport Club and visit a few because they all do it differently.
Okay.
There was one in Arizona that was zooming into a tri-district conference that I went to over the weekend. And what they do is they pick different service projects from different clubs around Arizona, and they decide we'll do the Phoenix Club this year, this time, and then next year we'll do, a different club. And they partner with the other clubs to do their service.
Oh, so it's not like every week they just pick, everybody just picks a club and okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that makes more sense then. Thank you. I will go to, so I should just go to the 5950 website and look for Passport Clubs.
And there's some other clubs that do that too.
Yeah. That's
Lloyd,
great.
what does our Passport Club here do for service projects?
Lloyd, yeah. You're on mute.
We're not good at reading lips. We've been practicing for 2 years, but not there yet.
Most of the projects that the Passport Club has been actually concerning veterans, projects that relate to either providing things for veterans overseas or just a variety of things as for veterans. They seem to have an affinity for that.
Passport. Okay.
But that's a great thing about being a part of a Passport Club, Patricia. You can see what everyone else is doing and adopt what you like. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Some of those clubs get rowdy, so it's kind of fun to attend virtually.
So the passport really wouldn't be associated with a particular club. It would be its own separate.
So if you think about it, if you think about a satellite club, it's a part of the
Right.
sponsoring club, even though they have their own bylaws, they have their own officers. But when you do a passport club, it's totally different.
Okay.
It's its own separate entity, and it's run just like a regular club. It's just that they meet virtually, and they're a little bit more flexible.
How do we get rid of the perceived image that Rotary's old white guys?
You know, that's a very good question. And, you know, John, it's very concerning. You know, when you ask people who don't know what Rotary's about, they think that we are people that eat breakfast, eat lunch, and go to meetings where we have a speaker. And really what we are is we're people of action. We're influencers in the communities. We are people who are driven by purpose, but we don't tell people about it. So I think the best way to do it, John, is to invite people, instead of inviting them to have breakfast with us, invite them to a service project. You know, we had a great meeting in my club today where we went to a Rotarian's place of business, and he manufactures cones and barrels and sells them to the DOT and rents them to the DOT when they're building. You know, when I drove up to St. Cloud today, they were everywhere. But it was just really fun to see what people do. So we just have to be more, you know, proactive in telling our stories about what we really do. You know, you start a club like with the veterans, and, you know, you always have to put their cause first, John, because they want to serve their cause. But when they find out we're about to eradicate polio and that they're big into peace. So you tell them we were there when the UN started, they get to be Rotarians with the capital R. It's just, we have to tell people who we are. Kathy, do you have any suggestions, since you were an RPIC and you're a marketing genius?
Well, I'm in John's club, and it's very interesting because we do we almost have more, we may already have more women than men. We're pretty darn close, but it's very interesting that that is still the perception in our community, because for years and years and years, we're not a very large community, and that is the perception, and it is tricky to break it. And so we do have to break out some of our public image things and just keep pounding at it and showing visuals of all of us doing things who aren't necessarily the older white men. But it's crazy how we're still battling that. And even though we have the majority of our club is, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we are now more women than men. I haven't looked recently, but we're close.
Yeah, I think we're right at 50, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And, you know, John, the other thing you could do is you could partner up with other groups who are other nonprofits, have similar causes and want to work together with projects. And then it's a good way to go big quick.
I was going to say I've been working on a Women in Rotary project for our district for a couple of years now. And, but we had somebody who came to me, he was so proud because he had made an all female nominating committee for new, you know, to go out and find women members. And I had to break it to him that unless everybody is doing that, it's not going to work. It can't just be women asking women. It's got to be men asking their wives to join, or their daughters to join, or their female colleagues at work to join. We just have to keep asking people, and they want. I spoke to a group in Thunder Bay, the Rotaract Club. I asked that was the Rotaract students and then all their mothers. And I said to the ladies there, I said, how many of you have ever been asked to join Rotary? Not a single person. These women, we had it all going on, but we've missed like a whole generation of people who would make really excellent Rotarians. So thank you for letting me get on my soapbox again.
No, okay, I think Kay is 100% right. And it's really the most important point of this whole thing, because our last Rotary International survey showed that 85% of Rotarians are in Rotary because somebody asked them. So if we don't ask, and we don't continue to ask, and we don't pester people, but you got to be resilient and keep on asking. You know, I wanted to join Rotary back in 1996, and they wouldn't let me in because my boss, she was a district attorney and she had the law enforcement spot. So for 13 years until I moved to Minneapolis, I wasn't Rotarian. So my neighbor asked me to join, and felt rejected, so I didn't. So he asked me, literally, we work out 3 times a week, so he asked me like 36 times. So I eventually said yes, went to a meeting, I loved it, had more friends, and it was just great. But the lesson I learned was you have to be persistent, because there's people, I asked a lady from my church who's a librarian, and someone asked her 10 years ago, and she couldn't then, but now she joined now, and she's a great member. She's helping our RCC sign up all our Afghan refugees with library cards so they can get free internet, things like that. So Kay's 100% right on that.
Nice comments. We have some nice comments in the chat too. If someone wants to elaborate on any of those, feel free.
I guess I'll hop on. One of the things when I was starting my Rotaract club, I had to fight my university a little bit because there is a Leo's club and a community service club. So I, of course, had to explain why Rotary is different than those. But if you are looking to engage like some of the college age students, I know the community service club, at least at my university and other universities that I have looked into or have friends who attend, they are always looking to get involved some way in their community. And a lot of the times the clubs on campuses all work together. So when I did Rotaract, we did a project with another Rotaract club at a different university and 2 different fraternities. It was the honors fraternity on both sets of campuses. And all 4 of us came together to raise money for Meals on Wheels in their area. And that was something that I really learned from that is you can reach out to other groups, and the community service group is always looking for other avenues to help out in their community, whether it's on campus or the community that the campus is in. So that is a great source that I have used when I was in Rotaract to kind of engage some members and maybe get some people that I wouldn't personally have thought of before.
Thank you, Haley. That's a good point, and it brings something to mind too. And Kay asked the question, what do you mean someone's spot? Rotary used to have these classifications where if you're the attorney, you could be the only attorney. If you're the doctor, you could be the only doctor. Nowadays, most classifications are done away with. Most clubs did away with those. Or if not, they say, well, you could have a divorce attorney, a criminal attorney, an estate planning attorney, and all that jazz. But I like what Haley said about, so many times as a club president, at least I was focused on, I got to bring in members. But there's a lot of participants in Rotary who we could have a positive effect on, and there are stakeholders that could eventually lead to membership. And I think that's really important. So Mike, can you tell us about your associate memberships in your club? Because a lot of new clubs are going that way.
Yeah, we created a membership category called associate members. I'm not sure there's any basis for doing it. We just decided to do it. And an associate member is somebody that is a member of another Rotary club. Lloyd and Tom are both members of my club. They're associate members, but they participate in the activities, the meetings, the gatherings. We consider them to be as regular a member as we can. We charge a very nominal fee for our membership. Our membership is $175 a year if you want to be a full Rotary member, and $50 a year if you want to be an associate with us. And you probably read a little bit about us in the RI magazine a few months ago, but we're getting 4 to 6 new people affiliating with our club every single week. Our biggest problem right now is we don't know how to handle new people. If anybody's got suggestions, please let me know, because that's our problem. But the associate members then provide a link back to their clubs. And as an example, we're going to be, we think, the first e-club to do an international grant. We're going for a $80,000-$90,000 grant. And we're going to have our associate members going back with a presentation to their clubs so that we can get participation. In normal situations, you got to go out and kind of pound the flesh. We got 27 associate members that are part of our group of 60. So it's a novel idea, and it's something that I'm not sure there was precedence to do it. So we just said, there's nothing that says we can't. So we do.
Wonderful.
It is wonderful.
So Kathy, I'm reading in the chat that Haley was saying that most colleges have community clubs where they go out and do community service. I'm wondering if we can send or get one of those members to tell us who their friends are, so when they graduate, we can make that the community Rotaract club.
Yeah. So many good questions and comments. Does anyone, any more comments, questions?
I guess I'll just hop on to like continue a little bit about the community service, at
Okay.
least the way that my university does, and a lot of the ones that I have looked. You can usually find on their website who is the current president. Sometimes it's a little outdated. I know they had to go on and bug my university to update it, so I wasn't still president and receiving emails. But usually there's a current president and the advisor. So you'll have a contact right on their website in order to get in contact with them and maybe have some sort of communication to work with them or recruit some potential members.
I know some internet clubs, the graduating high school seniors, those would be great ones to tag when they go to college, because they were so enthusiastic. So yeah, that's another idea. Good. Any other comments? All right. Well, Tom, we're going to allow you, if you don't mind, we're just going to give you your parting words of wisdom.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. This is an exciting time to be in Rotary. It's an exciting time to be president-elect when Jennifer Jones is going to be our international president in just 60 days. If there was ever hope for our organization, I think it's now. There's so many opportunities. Our most recent council and legislation has done away with attendance requirements. And just looking at the new clubs that have been started over the last 5 years, they're a little bit different than our traditional clubs. They usually meet on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, as opposed to Monday through Thursday at breakfast or lunch. A lot of times they meet on the weekends, they meet at coffee shops, and they're all about that service. I think all the ideas that you guys had, from Kathy's starting the Community Rotaract Club, and the one that John was thinking about starting, the Satellite Club, Haley's club that she started, I can see us just doing that all over the place. So if we can use Jennifer's theme, RI President-elect Jennifer Jones's theme, Imagine, and then reach out and let us help you. You know, we have Rotary coordinators, we have assistant Rotary coordinators, we have new club development people in all of your districts. And you have your DGEs, 3 of whom were on the call tonight. They have to start clubs. They were charged with doing that. So you have their help too. So don't give up, and there's people to help you, and know it's not hard. And that's all I got to say about that.
Well, that is a beautiful way to end this program. Thank you so much. And to all our PEs, congratulations. And we know you're going to have a great year. Okay, Kathy.
That concludes our North Central Pets Select a Topic sessions. We will have resources and recordings of many of the sessions, not all of them, that will be live by the end of the week on our northcentralpets.org website. So I will send out an email to everyone once those are all there, but please check. A few of them are already there, and we'll be adding more throughout the rest of this week. So thank you very much, and have a great year, and reach out to all of these great resources that you've learned about during this PETS training. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Tom.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.